Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Pastor Cast. Joining me today is Pastor Jason Palm.
Hey.
And I'm glad you're here. Welcome.
Thanks.
Let's get started.
Skittle-a-do, I said bim bop. Skittle-a-do, I said bim. Skittle-a-do, I said get out and bop. Skittle-a-do, I said bim bop boom. Skittle-a-do, I said bim bop. Skittle-a-do, I said bim. Skittle-a-do, I said get out and bop. Skittle-a-do, I said bim bop boom.
Well, everyone, thanks for joining us today. As I mentioned, Jason Palm, who's the pastor of our central campus, is here. And Jason, I'd like to just start out with something a little bit fun. So just before we started taping today, we talked about humor. And of course, I think, there's a lot of tension that people are feeling and anxieties. And I think one of the ways to deal with that is just to have a little fun and have some humor. So what we started talking about was jokes that we're telling in our home. And so let me tell you one that my daughter told me, and then I guess you have a couple that your daughter told you.
Sure.
So here's my joke. It's from my daughter, Kate, and this is her joke. What did the football coach say to the vending machine? I want my quarterback.
Nice.
All right, let's hear yours.
Okay. My daughter, Aria, has been telling this joke, which I think is just like super clever. And so I'm going to share it with you. Scott, do you consider yourself a horse? Yay or nay?
I like that.
It's kind of clever.
Nay.
So I don't know.
All right, what else you got?
She also is telling this joke about fish. She says, why do fish always die when an eel bites them?
Okay.
Because naturally fish are eel allergic. From
a
5-year-old, that's pretty funny.
Now I got one for you.
All right, let's hear it.
Jake is right behind the camera here, and he just told us this joke. And this is how it goes. Hey, what's so great about Switzerland? And then Jake just stood there deadpanned, and none of us knew. And then he said, I don't know, but their flag is a big plus.
Amazing.
Boom. Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Jake.
He gave a thumbs up from behind the camera. I love it.
Anyway, humor. I think that's good. And I think it's always important to just have some good humor. I think especially as Christians, there's a sense in which no matter what's going on, we have an ultimate joy that comes from God. And I believe humor is one of the gifts that God gives to us. And so anyway, I'm always up for a good joke and for some good humor. Listen, as we get started today, Jason, one of the things that I really want to do is I want to provide for our entire church and just for Christians who are listening, a big metaphor to help us understand what we should be doing and what we should be about in this moment. One of the verses that I keep coming back to, and it's almost every day that I've been coming back to during this coronavirus crisis, the kind of quarantine that we've been facing and everything shut down. Here it is from 1 Peter 4, verse 10. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. I love that. I think all of us have received from God, and so we're supposed to be serving and using what we've received back in service.
Right.
And now for the church and for Christians, here's the metaphor that I'd like to give to help us get oriented to this moment. And I'll speak personally first, which is this. At some point I came to realize about myself that I was, as it were, drowning in the ocean. Like, I came to recognize that I was a sinner, that I needed God's grace, and that I was making a mess out of my own life. On my own, by my own effort, waves were going over my head and I was lost. And then this is what happened. Christ came out and rescued me. Jesus came out and he pulled me up out of the water and he resuscitated my life. And, the Bible says I'm born again and I have this new life. And, he's hauled me back to the shore. And all the broken pieces about me, he's now putting back together and bringing healing and wholeness. And I think for every person who's a Christian, that's the truth, that we've been rescued. We were the lost sheep, and Jesus risked it all to come find us. And now, why? Well, there's this great story. You can find it in the Gospels, like in Mark chapter 2, where there's actually Pharisees and teachers of the law who come and they're upset with Jesus because he's eating with sinners and tax collectors. And they ask him, like, hey, why are you spending time with those people, those sinners? And I don't know if you remember what Jesus said. He said, look, I want you to understand something. It's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. And he says that he's come to seek and save the lost. And anyway, I think that helps orient us to what our mission is supposed to be if we're followers of Jesus.
Right.
I think sometimes as a church, it's possible to get into this. All right, Jesus has brought us up on the shore, and now we're gathered together in a community of people, and we'd like to maximize our onshore benefits.
Right.
Right? So maybe we want to start a beach volleyball team, and maybe I'd like to sit in this chair and get a tan, or maybe I'd like to have yoga classes out. No. Why has Jesus rescued us and revived our lives and resuscitated? It's this. He's given us a mission. You know, there's other people who are out in the water drowning. And our job is not to, sit up on the shore with all the saved people. Once we've been empowered by God, what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to dive back in the water, and we're supposed to be rescuing others. And I think that we have to have crystal clarity about why it was that Jesus pulled us out of the water and revived us. He pulled us out of the water and revived us so that we'd get back in the water and get on this rescue mission that Jesus is on.
Yeah.
And anyway, here's the deal, and this is why I think it's important for this moment. It turns out that I think just Satan and spiritual dark forces, our own sin, blinds us. And so here's what happens. There's plenty of people who you swim out to rescue them, and you say, look, you could be saved from this situation. They'll say, no, I don't need to be saved. I'm fine. I can swim back to shore.
Doggy paddling.
Like, I have it all within my own power. I mean, this is what people think. I have it all within my own power to rescue and save myself. I'm perfectly fine making it back to shore. And I think, look, every other religion in the world, all it does is gives you some advice about how to do that. Christianity is the one religion that says, no, you don't have the spiritual power to save yourself. You need Jesus. And anyway, this is what we find as we go out into the world. There's plenty of people, especially when things are quote unquote going well and we're in like our bubble of, things are okay in my life. We might trick ourselves and think, well, things might not all be right, but I'll certainly be able to swim back to shore by my own effort at some point. Well, moments like these where, all right, people are now more attuned to the fact that our life is fragile. People are really attuned to the fact that, man, even financially, I could face ruin. People are with their families right now, and many people with their families are recognizing, like, okay, my personal relationships are not the kind of personal relationships. All of a sudden, they're feeling breakers crash over their head. They're starting to recognize, like, man, I might not be able to fix my own problems. And this might be the very moment where, as we swim out to them and say, hey, I'm here to rescue you, they'd be like, all right, fantastic, I can't make it on my own. What I mean is, this is a moment where people might be more spiritually attuned to the rescue that Jesus brings and be more spiritually receptive now than ever. And why I'm saying all this is, it's possible that the church, as it waits on this coronavirus, is just waiting around. But I don't think we should be waiting around. We should be very active in our waiting. We should right now be diving into the water because there are people who need to be rescued. And anyway, I want to just give that kind of image or metaphor. The last thing we need to be doing is maximizing our beach benefits. The thing we need to be doing right now is getting out there, serving people, showing the love of Jesus, and being laser focused about what Jesus said he came to do, which is seek and save the lost. He didn't come to call the healthy, but the sick.
You're saying that there's people in the water that need help and they finally realize they're helpless And now's the time we should be diving in. That's
Now is
awesome.
the time. And so I think this is a moment where we've got to mobilize the church. Look, there's a lot of clarity that's coming right now. People sometimes have had the idea that the church is a building you come to. That has never been the case. The church is the people of God who've been called out, and they've been rescued, and they've been saved, and they've been sent on a mission to go make disciples. Let's get clarity about the fact church is not a place you go to, that church doesn't exist for me and for my benefits. The church is the people of God who are called out of this world and are sent on a mission. And we need right now to be on mission. So, anyway.
What does that look like?
That's the opening metaphor. Well, that's why I have you here.
Yeah, well, great.
So, of course, people are at home right now, and there's a lot of patterns that have been disrupted. People can't come to church. I mean, all of a sudden, there's new habits and patterns that are forming. And, as the pastor of our central campus, we made some pivots.
Right.
And we've gotten really urgent about how can we serve people in this time. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to just ask you, hey, what are some of the things that Sunlight Community Church is doing? What are some of the things that you're doing as a pastor to help mobilize people to really serve others and be on this rescue mission?
Well, first, I love that you use the word pivot. This idea that we're shifting. We've got one foot in the same spot, but we're shifting our direction in a way to do the same things that we've been doing, but perhaps in a different angle. And so, what I really love about what we've been working on, people here have been going crazy, especially you, Scott, preparing all this new content based on this pivot. So one of the ways that we're doing is we're trying to, instead of letting people just get lost in the Netflix sea, as it were, we're trying to create original content every single day that people can tune into and still feel connected to the church in that way, which I think is like a really amazing pivot and a really, you wouldn't believe all the technical things that have had to be learned in the last week. It's crazy. And I'm so thankful to be a part of a church that's really focused on that.
Yeah, let's talk about the online content a little bit, because I think this is important too. Of course, we're doing everything we can to get the message of Christianity out. But people who are at home that are receiving that content, now I want you to think about this. Of course, the content is for you, and we're hoping that you grow spiritually. But again, to keep the metaphor, the content is not for you.
Right.
And we have the opportunity, we're calling people to be what we call digital missionaries. Talk a little bit about what we mean by that when we say digital missionaries.
Yeah, it's so interesting because in person, sometimes people have a problem striking up a conversation. I get that all the time. Well, I'm just not good at evangelism because I'm just not a people person. Literally, we're in a point in history where you can click a button called share and it will share it to people. Or to have that individual relationship and say, hey, I think you might really need this video. I saw this and I thought of you. And those individual relationships, we can be sending people through a website or through YouTube to some kind of content that will really speak to them, that we can be those people in the water. And you can do that with a click. It's unbelievable.
It's great.
Yeah.
So the gospel message, of course, is for us. But now, because we're creating content that has the gospel deeply embedded in it, if there's something that, as you listen to something we create, you say, wow, my son or daughter or my neighbor or friend or whoever could really, boy, I wish they heard this. You could email it to them. You could send that clip to them. I believe there's so many opportunities right now as digital missionaries. And we would just encourage you to send an email, to post things to your own page on social media, to share things. That is going to be a great way for us to spread the message.
Right, it's easy.
And another thing that I think is just so interesting, the very first Sunday's worship service that we put online has now been viewed more than 15,000 times.
It's crazy.
So I love that because, our services, we may have 700-800 people come, which is amazing on a Sunday morning. I love the in-person gatherings. I'm missing them.
Oh, yeah.
But I've sensed in this moment that God actually might be making new opportunities with as many as 15,000 people tuning in to hear the gospel message. And that's happening, by the way, because people are sharing the content. They're pointing it out to other people. They're tagging people in the content. They're sending out emails. And I believe this isn't just something, of course, we're here with Jake and he's filming us and we're making this content, but actually the entire church is a part of this ministry.
Exactly. I love that. And we say that at Sunlight all the time, that we're not just people on the stage, the pastors or the staff. Those are not just the people that are in ministry, but we are all in ministry.
That's right.
And here's an easy next step for all of you to realize and use your potential in ministry. It's so great. I think it's a great
So
time.
that's the first thing. What's
Sure.
next?
Also, we've created a text messaging system. The number is 772-277-7072. You can text that number, and we have an opportunity to get back to you with any concerns or needs that you might have. And I think that's one bit of technology that this has forced us to learn and use in a really powerful way.
Yeah.
The prayer requests that are coming in through that line, Scott, the different way that we're able to give information out through that text messaging program, it's amazing. It's been really cool. And I know personally that I've been able to pray for some of you, and that's been really personal to me.
Yeah, that's great.
Listen,
if you haven't done so yet, we'd encourage you to get onto this text messaging chain. Just text your first and last name. And again, the number is 772-277-7072.
Yep.
After you text your first and last name, you'll automatically be included. And you can text that number anytime if you know of a person in need, if you know of a prayer request, if there's some way in which collectively as a church we could respond. We'd love to know about that. And this is also a way so that we can stay connected. We'll let you know of things that are happening here, announcements that are being made.
Yeah.
It's a great way to stay connected, and I'm glad that this moment has, I think God's used it to help us be more connected to each other. And so I really encourage you to become part of this text messaging system.
Yeah, in addition to that, we have this initiative that we're starting called Sunlight Cares Calling, which is this opportunity where we have people who are just finding the most vulnerable in this time and calling them every other day just to stay connected. It's only when we're forced to just be on a screen all the time that we really appreciate this kind of interaction and this relationship. And so that's why the phone calls are so important.
That's
just
right.
Checking in the needs and what we can be praying for each other about. So we've got people that are doing and making those calls right now as we speak. This is awesome.
So if people wanted to join that and they wanted to make phone calls to people and be a part of that, how would they get in touch with you? Should they just do it through the text messaging system? All right.
Send it through the text. If you're interested, and this is a way you can be in ministry, if you're interested in being a part of this, just text that you want to be on the Sunlight Cares calling team. Right? Just send that text. I'll receive it. I'll send a personal text back to you that you're in, and I'll give you some more instructions via email. So
okay, fantastic. I love that. And this is a way in which every person in our church can be caring for all the other people in our church. And I love that. That's great. What else?
Hey, so those were some relational needs, Scott. There's actually some physical needs that are coming up because of this situation. So we have a program here called Grace Packs that brings food to food insecure students at school. Well, right now school's not in session and they have this food. So right now we're figuring out ways in which to utilize some of that stuff that we have already set aside from this amazing ministry. Laura Klosterman, shout out to you if you're watching, and everyone involved in Grace Packs. You're awesome. Praise God for you. We're going to repurpose that right now for any economic struggles that might happen because of this virus. We're trying to figure out and meet those basic needs of people. They'll know we're Christians by our love, right?
Right.
So we just want to have an opportunity to physically have something to give to people that are in need.
All right, that's great.
Yeah. So that's one that we're working on.
All right. I know you have some others.
Yeah, on that same idea, we have something through Sunlight Kitchen, which is one of our ministries. We're trying to provide a healthy, nutritious meal for a curbside pickup that people can just go right onto their website and every day have a nutritious meal. Right now, I just know if I want anything that I'm not cooking, it's coming in a paper bag. And it's not nutritious. It's not good for my family. It's not generally delicious. It tastes like peanut oil. But Sunlight Kitchen, man, they made this. Oh man, what is it called? Chicken Florentina or some kind of chicken with goat cheese and stuff. Oh, it was so amazing. They have lasagna that they're doing. All kinds of stuff. There's this huge menu.
That's right. Renee, our head chef, is a fantastic chef.
Oh, ridiculous.
And I know that there's many people who are going to need food and they aren't used to cooking for themselves, perhaps. You can drive up, it's curbside, you have the meal right there for you. So I hope you become a part of that. If you'd like to make use of Sunlight Kitchen, we can do that now.
Yeah.
And we'll put the website for Sunlight Kitchen here in the video so that you can make your order every single day.
Right.
All right. I know you have still more.
This is the last one, I promise.
Okay.
But hopefully not the last one. But for right now.
Right.
Something I'm super excited about. This initiative, Project 1200 is what we're calling it.
Okay.
We're super excited about this idea. Here's what it is. Right now, our government has just gracefully put forth this stimulus package for $1,200 for adults. That they're going to give some people. It's an amazing idea because based on the economic ramifications of this, there's going to be people that are out of work. That this is going to be the step that they need to move forward. However, there are people that are not financially going to be affected by this at all.
That's right.
And those people, that's just extra. And this Project 1200 is a challenge. That those people who are not going to be financially affected by this, give that towards the people that do. And we're going to put 100% of that right into our benevolence fund so that we can have an opportunity when needs arise to meet those physical needs. So if you're one of those people that $1,200 is not going to affect you in any way, give it to someone that it can through Project 1200. You can go right online to our website and give and itemize it as benevolence, and that will be used for this Project 1200.
That's right. So when that check comes in the mail, we'd love for you to cash it. And if it's something you need, great, it's for you. But if this is something that's just over and above and it's not something that you need, we'd love for you to give it to people who are in need. We're not going to use that to pay for electric bills. We're not going to use it to pay for salaries. We're not going to use it for anything except to give it to people who are in need. And I'm hoping that we have a huge response and we can really, in our community, show off God's love. And this can become a touch point. People who are struggling financially and hurting, they're feeling the waves come over their head. They're going to find people who care about them in this moment of need.
Exactly.
When I think about church history, you can go all the way back to early Roman times when the church really was being very persecuted still. And Christians were sort of set aside in society. But here's what happened. The plague came. And there were families who, if you got sick, they were sending you out of the home. And you basically were now in the streets by yourself. And the death rate was very high. And here's what was happening. Christians would come along because they had the love of Christ in their heart, and they would take those people into their home and nurture them back to health.
Wow.
They were willing to risk their own health to show the love of Jesus to people. Now, here in this moment, I don't think the coronavirus is as deadly as it is anything like the plague was at all. But this is still going to be a great moment because people are feeling the waves crash over their head for us to show a kind of love that people are going to look at and say, wow, now those are people who care about people and in that see the gospel of Jesus. And here's the point. We've got to do things that get into the water. We've got to be, as the church, the last thing we need to do right now is worry about ourselves, is worry about what's happening to us. We've got to be worried about how can we reach people for Christ. We know that we've been taken hold of. We're secure. Even if the worst happens and we die, we go to be with him. And so we have something that cannot be taken away. And that's now the motive. It's, Jesus didn't come for the healthy. He came for the sick. He came to get in the water. He wants us to follow him. And so we're going to do the same thing.
Put down the volleyball.
Yeah,
get in the water.
Put down the volleyball. Get in the water.
Yeah, I love it.
Jason, I want to thank you so much for coming and just talking a little bit about what's happening here at our Central Campus and how we're making a pivot to respond, to really help people, to care for people, to be reaching out with the gospel, to be in tangible ways, providing for people's needs. There's a lot of ways in which we can all be at work. Again, we'll just come back to this idea. Here's an opportunity to be digital missionaries. And so, we want you, as you listen to these things that are coming each and every day from Sunlight Community Church Online, to be sharing this. Like it. Put it on your page. Tag a friend who you think would be interested. We'd love to get this message to as many people as possible. Anyway, everyone, that comes to the end of this episode. Jason, thanks for joining us. Jake, thanks for your great joke. And everybody, we'll see you next week.